All right, we're actually going to start with David today. David is first up on deck. And David, why don't you give us a quick, give us just a little bit of background on the Bowling Green PD. Maybe I've got some pictures on the screen we'll start sharing here in a few minutes. But give us a little bit of background on the Bowling Green PD and maybe your history there. Give me 60 seconds.
Sure. We are a municipal agency of about 125 officers in a municipality of 70,000 people, countywide population, about 130,000. If you're familiar with Nashville, Tennessee location, we're about 60 miles north of Nashville. My background, I'm a retired detective from Bowling Green Police Department. I got bored after 6 years. I came back, decided to work in our evidence room.
Excellent. Excellent. And so give us a quick intro as to what your topic is today and why are you choosing to talk about this specific thing?
Yeah, my topic is basically using your evidence room data as an analytical tool. I'll talk a little bit about what kind of data and perhaps what we did using that data, how we could, I guess, squeeze some things out of our Board of Commissioners to help ease the burden of our storage capacity.
So you're not one of those agencies that just has an unlimited budget and people are just bending over backwards to give you money. Does that describe you at all?
Yeah, I mean, we have an adequate budget. I mean, we don't have to, beg, borrow, or steal, but you've only got a certain footprint to store things, and you have to use that wisely. And that's kind of what I want to talk about, using those analytical tools, extract it from your data to accomplish that.
So let me first delve into some basics on the screen. So I'm sharing my screen right now and I'm showing you some statistics about the Bowling Green Police Department, okay? And so just as a quick overview so everybody has a bit of an understanding, since the beginning of time that they started, data-driven entry of evidence, they have entered 167,766 pieces of evidence. And the great news for David, I'm sure he's excited about this, they've disposed of 122,000 of those items. So right now their active evidence count is roughly 44,000, not even roughly, it's exactly 44,943 items. Yeah, that's a bit of an overview of all your evidence. And in the last, now what's interesting is in the last 30 days, you have brought in, it looks like 1,854. Is that a right number? Because that doesn't sound right.
We're averaging probably anywhere between high 800s to 900 items monthly. So
okay.
that might not be off. That's
a question, and I'm curious. I want to throw this question out for everybody here real quick because we covered it a moment ago. You guys are closed to the public right now, so if somebody wanted to pick up evidence, the answer is no at the moment, right?
That's right. We're closed to the public. No public police at all.
Okay, Dana, you're in the same spot? Okay, and Lindsay, what about you guys? Are you closed?
No, we're still open.
Okay, so the question was, and this is good, so I'm going to ask this question of you. Is anyone doing anything different when leasing property while maintaining social distancing? How are you handling that?
We had a new police department built for us last year, and so we had it designed where there is a room in between us and the public, so there is no physical contact between us and the public. They can come up to a window and we speak through the window, get their, figure out their case, get their items ready, and then we put their items into that room, come back into the property room, and then we buzz them in there to get their items.
Okay. And I guess
I do have.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I do have public interaction, so I don't have that luxury of having that barrier in between.
So I guess the short answer is, amongst our 3 panel members, if you've got a room like that, then that's something you may consider you are releasing property. If you don't, and you're like David, they just shut it down right now. So, all right, well, let's get back to David. And so, David, I'm just going to bring up the screenshots that you sent me earlier, because I guess the first thing I would lead into is the statistics that are on my screen right now. This is the stuff you work with every day. But from your standpoint, and maybe elaborate before I bring those other screenshots in, why is this not enough right here? Why did you go into building some of the other charts and graphs that you built as I bring the first one up here? Why did you decide to go into something like this?
Well, I think using your data and putting it in some form of a visual aid, it's a selling point. No, I mean, it kind of slaps you in the face too for yourself from a management standpoint. So when you get these graphs and charts and you see that, particularly at the year end, then it's a telltale sign. I mean, there's no, these charts don't lie. So it's an eye opening for me, an eye opening for a command staff, eye opening to your legislators, your board of commissioners, or whatever board of supervisors are. I can tell you it worked for us. So.
Yeah. How often? I'm curious. How often do you send this Excel document right here with the graphs on it? How often do you send this out to somebody?
Yeah, every year I do a year-end
Okay.
analysis of our evidence room
Okay.
with commentary, not just the graphs, but there's some brief commentary. It's not very long because if it's a lengthy document, people are not going to read it. So.
So my first takeaway is, and we're getting ready to go through 4 different charts. My assumption is you sort of build a story here. I mean, we start out with, this looks to be like the intro to your story. I'm just beginning to say, hey, this is what's coming in the door for the last year.
Yeah, if you look at this is just basically a comparison of month to month for one solid calendar year, and that gives you a picture of and actually it's, if you look at the data there and the charts, it's pretty predictable. Aside from maybe 2 spikes, one in January and one in December, you've got a picture that's pretty consistent there. So you can plan maybe perhaps in ordering supplies. How much supplies are you going to have from month to month? You can even use this data, comparing this December with last December. So it's a great tool to use. Some of these others are a little more eye-opening.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the next one here. Let's go into your next picture, and why don't you explain what's going on here?
Yeah, this one's a real telltale sign. This is a 5-year comparison of your receiving, your intake versus your disposal. If you look at those first 4 years there, those were pretty pathetic years for disposals.
Yeah.
Now, we knew what that, I do this every year, so I know this is no surprise. I knew it existed. My command staff knows that this exists. It's no surprise. But what is surprising is being able to use that data there to get to where you want to go for a particular goal, and that's what we were doing. Part of the problem with these stats you see, where we have a large intake, small disposal, is we rely heavily on our prosecutor's office on those cases that are related to a particular court case for dispositions, and we cannot get those in a timely manner. Those are very, very delayed. Sometimes you'd be lucky if you can get them within a 2 or 3 year period. That's another topic, and we're working on a solution for that, and I think we accomplished that solution some.
We're gonna have David come back when we have our webinar about disposition. I mean, it'll be an entire webinar just literally on the topic of disposition and what you're facing in this world. And that right there is one of the primary problems is the support that goes along with getting rid of this stuff. So yeah, that'll be a different topic for a different day. But I am curious, when I look at this, what year did you take over property? When did you start doing the work that you were doing?
Late 2011.
Okay.
We had an antiquated system. At best, it was inadequate. If you can say that, at best, it was inadequate. So, I started doing these charts in 2012. So I knew from year to year what we were looking at.
Yeah.
Actually, in using some of this data, I had forecasted probably 2 years ago in the year-end analysis that at the end of 2019, we were going to be sort of in a situation where we will have reached capacity, and that came true. And using the data and SAFE, actually be able to forecast that.
Huh. What did that change, since the whole topic we're talking about here is using data, using information like this to get support? What happened when you forecasted that? When you went back to command staff and said, hey, we got a looming problem, here are the graphs, I'm forecasting out where we're going with this thing. What was the response to that?
Well, the response was a couple of things. We were looking at currently we're looking at modifying our disposition policy. We've met with the prosecutor's office, and they're on board with some things that we're getting ready to implement. And actually, we're looking at auto disposition. Right now, we rely on paper disposition. So I'll send out at the end of the year every item that's been collected by an officer, and they go through and review that, mark it up for disposal or hold, and sends it back to me. So that process is kind of slow. If you look at the disposal, there's a spike, in a year to year of disposals, and that indicates that you're disposing probably in once a year or twice a year instead of being sort of flatlined consistently across the year.
Yeah. Well, I think the interesting thing is that you were showing data modeling like this to indicate there was a problem coming. And so, well, let's move on to your next graph, because I really like this one too. First of all, I'm a charts and graphs kind of person, so I love seeing these things. Explain to me what we're seeing here.
Well, I'm putting current and past data in this trend chart, and Excel can do this for you. It's very easy.
Yeah.
So we're reaching capacity in the storage. Part of that is a purging problem. Part of it is that we have currently an off-site bulk storage facility where we store large things, bicycles, power tools, and so forth. And we really had exceeded capacity in that one, and we needed a new place.
Yeah.
So we're using this data here for forecasting the trend. Now you can see a dip there in that last year where collection went down. Well, we stopped collecting and putting in our evidence body cams and car cam video. So there was a significant drop there. But aside from that, you can see that this trend keeps ticking up.
Yeah.
So we took this data, our command officers took this data, presented it to our city manager, and then presented it to our board of commissioners. They looked at the data along with other data. They looked at this data and realized that, yes, you're in a need. And the board of commissioners approved a 2-story, 10-car bay bulk storage facility back on our site of our headquarters site, because our old one was a mile away. So there's probably some pictures in there that we're under construction right now. So as a result of using this data, we were able to convince both our city manager and a board of commissioners that this was needed. Everybody was on board with it. We had one vote no, and that was only because of the cost of the project, not that there was not a need. So
right.
That works.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to your last chart that you got, and why don't you give me a quick rundown on what this is?
Yeah, this is another chart I took a look at, and the board of commissioners looked at it. This is looking at your complete year-end inventory, and you can look at just about every year except that last year. It kept ticking up. At the end of the year, we constantly have more inventory in storage. Yep. And we went from a low of like 28,500 in 2013, 6 years ago. Now we've just doubled it almost. So, well, not quite double, but it's a
all right. So I do want to
leave
a moment for some questions and answers. I'm assuming the very first question that's going to come out from everybody is, can I get a copy of this Excel document? Just so you guys know, and Joe, I want you to remind me at the very end of this whole webinar, I'm going to show you where we have posted this Excel document that you can go grab it and download it. David has agreed to take this Excel document and we put it out there. So you can put these things in here and begin to manipulate a little bit of how this works in here. But I think the one comment that I would make is I absolutely guarantee you that, first of all, everybody probably has, your graphs would look very similar to this. In fact, there's probably people on here that would say my graphs would look significantly worse than this. If you're going to go to command staff and explain to them what the problem is, you are 1,000 times better to have a printout of these 4 graphs, walk in the room, sit it down on the table and say nothing, versus just walk in and start spouting about your disposition problem. This is at least presenting it in a way where when I look at these things, I'm simply like, wow, I mean, David, this is impressive that, you know, it paints a much better story than just yelling out loud what the problem is. This is what motivates people into doing stuff about these problems. Now, you know, what the answer is, building more storage or how do we fix disposition problems, you know, those are conversations to be had, but this is how you walk in the door and present the problem. All right.
Yeah,
So
nobody's going to listen.
Go ahead, Dave.
If you don't have this, nobody's going to listen to you. They're absolutely, you're going to have the proof.
Yeah.
And if the proof is there, which every year I've given it to them, if it's ignored, it's not on you. It's somebody else's decision. They have to bear the responsibility for that.
That's absolutely correct. That was very well put. So I do have a couple of questions come in here, and I want to give you a couple of them to answer. For any, this is for anybody, do you have direct contact with the ASA to go over cases that have been sitting for a little while, or solely rely on the officer detectives to tell you of what to dispose of? And I don't know what ASA is, but do you have any idea what that is, David?
That's I'm assuming it's the Assistant U.S. Attorney's Office. So this may be a federal agency that's sitting on this and posing the question.
I think this will be a question that we delve into when we get into the whole disposition problem, because this does, you know, I mean, how do we get assistance on disposition is a topic all of its own. So I'd like to hold on to that one.
I can tell you that's part of our problem. Yes.
Yeah. It's got to be a part. Well, everybody except Krista at Des Moines, which I didn't mean to start out with her the other day, that she had sort of this glowing, like, our disposition process is great and the attorneys get right back to us, because she may be the only person in the entire country that would respond that way.
Yeah. And I think using this data, we are now working on a pilot program with our prosecutor's office to hopefully eliminate this problem. So, but that's for another day, another topic.
That's going to be my plug for the disposition webinar, which I don't remember exactly what day it's coming up, but when we get into the disposition stuff, come back and David will talk a little bit more about that pilot program that they're starting. All right, I'm at the 20-minute mark. Joe, you got anything else to throw out specifically for this group?
Nope.
I will throw it out because we got into it earlier, and I don't know that the three of you will have an answer for this, but somebody actually asked the question, does anybody have any plans to do anything like the Amazon lockers, where, you know, maybe you tell somebody an item is available for pickup and, you know, they know the locker with the code and they can come in and get it? You guys ever considered anything like that? That's for anybody.
No.
No, I've not either.
I mean, that sounds really cool. I mean, it would be, you know, to be able to put something in a locker and generate a code, that would be great.
Now that everybody's heard how Lindsay disposes of evidence, maybe we can convince everyone that we need lockers like that, so you don't have to have interaction with the public.
Yeah. So somebody actually brought the question up, and let me throw this out here. Doesn't the tracker software already do charts and graphs? And so let me bring up, I mean, do have some charts and graphs in there, but I will tell you, the primary purpose of this screen in our development is to simply give you the information. I think what David has done has come up with sort of an inventive way to take the numbers that are on this screen and just display them in a different view. Because, I mean, clearly, to me, there's a difference. He could take this screenshot right here, just take this general stats widget and give it to somebody. It doesn't seem to quite tell the story as something like that, or even that or that. And so right now, the SAFE application does not have the ability to take statistical numbers and break them down into a graph like this. And I mean, I just think this is a good way to take those analytics and put it in just a more digestible way. All right.
And it's actually easy to do. It's easy to accomplish by dumping it in Excel.
Well, listen, at the end of this webinar, we'll tell you how to get a copy of this document. And my guess is going to be somebody's going to take this as a starter and come up with something much more elaborate. And when you do, let us know, and we'll post that out also. Hopefully this is just something where David got the ball rolling. As a matter of fact, at the end of this, we're going to show you how everybody on here can post your own documents. We have a way to where if you've got something really cool, something like this, and I'm guessing with almost 100 people watching this webinar, somebody else has done something like this, and it may be even better than what David has done. We'll show you how to post that out so that everybody can get a hold of that. So we'll cover that at the very end.